Ours is a land rich in resources, stimulating in its glorious beauty, filled with millions of happy homes, blessed with comfort and opportunity. In no nation are the institutions of progress more advanced. In no nation are the fruits of accomplishment more secure. In no nation is the government more worthy of respect. No country is more loved by its people. I have an abiding faith in their capacity, integrity, and high purpose. I have no fears for the future of our country. It is bright with hope.
Just 8 months after Herbert Hoover was elected the 31st President of the United States, the Wall Street crash of 1929 sent the nation into what became known as the Great Depression. While the president could hardly be blamed for the conditions that led to the crash, millions of Americans suffered poverty, hunger, and homelessness, and the improvised shanty towns that sprung up around the country earned the nickname Hoovervilles. A mining engineer who had made a fortune in that industry, Hoover, like Taft, was nominated despite a lack of electoral experience or high military ranking. He ran on a platform of eliminating waste and inefficiency, though when the Great Depression hit, Hoover was able to adapt quickly, responding with efforts to curb the devastating economical effects. He started public works projects like the Hoover Dam, increased taxes in the top tax bracket, and passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff on imported goods to drive American production and consumption. None of the programs, unfortunately, were successful, but they provided the groundwork later for President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal. Hoover even redistributed his presidential salary, something only he and later President John F. Kennedy were known for.
I made up my mind when I entered public life that I would not make it possible for anyone ever to say that I had sought public office for the money there was in it. I therefore kept the money that came to me as salary in a separate account and distributed it where I thought it would do the most good. Part of it went to supplement the salaries of men who worked under me and whom the government paid less than I thought they were worth. Part of it went to charities.
Hoover unsuccessfully ran for a second term in 1932. The failure of his public works programs and his continuing enforcement of prohibition lost favor with voters. And that year, the American people elected a president that would see them through the Great Depression and lead them through another great global war. On March 4th, 1933, a man entered the office of the president that would remain there for over a decade. A man whose battle with polio left him permanently paralyzed from the waist down, but still managed to teach himself to walk with a cane and never let his disability define him. A man that would lift the United States from the deepest of economic depression and see the United States through the most fantastic conflict the country and the world had ever seen. Franklin Delano Roosevelt had become a symbol of the perfect president for leading America out of the Dust Bowl and into the atomic age. A fifth cousin of previous President Theodore Roosevelt and born of the same prominent New York City family, one legend has it that James Roosevelt once took his young son, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to visit Grover Cleveland in the White House, where the harried president reportedly told the boy,
"I have one wish for you, little man, that you will never be President of the United States."
Cleveland's wish was unfulfilled. Campaigning and winning with the somewhat prophetic song, "Happy Days Are Here Again," the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, wasted no time when he entered office. Within his first 100 days, FDR instituted his New Deal programs, rushing legislation and acts through Congress in an effort to produce relief such as government jobs for the massively unemployed, recovery through economic growth, and reform through the regulation of Wall Street, the banks, and transportation. For much of Roosevelt's first term, the economy seemed to be on the up and up. However, conditions relapsed into a recession in 1937. The following year would see the invasion of China by Japan and aggressive expansion in Europe by Nazi Germany, leading the world into another war. Roosevelt was determined to limit United States involvement in the early years of World War II, but successfully lobbied Congress to approve a Lend-Lease Act, providing munitions and supplies to United States allies fighting against Nazi Germany with Great Britain, as well as support to China to help fend off their invaders. The programs helped not only the countries fighting in Europe and Asia, but the unemployed in America, who went back to work under government contracts in war centers, manufacturing weapons and vehicles like planes, tanks, and ships for the war effort. It seemed for a moment that the war could be won without leaving American soil. Until December 1941.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense, but always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us, no matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion.
With that, the United States officially entered World War II. While Axis powers were fought on two fronts, the economy at home was mobilized for the war effort. While the industrial economy grew and unemployment dropped, Roosevelt saw partisan politics in Congress reverse many of the New Deal programs he had established. Surviving programs include Social Security and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, which insured private and corporate bank accounts from total loss in the event of bank closure or another depression. As the war continued, so did Roosevelt's presidency. He was elected to the office a total of 4 times, more than any other president before or since, and his work shaped liberal politics for decades. After his 4th term officially began in 1945, FDR had just returned from the Yalta Conference, where post-war planning was taking place, and where Roosevelt's health continued to decline. When he spoke of the conference to Congress on March 1st, it was clear from his thin, frail appearance and the fact that he was seated during his address that the president was not long for this world. At the end of that month, FDR suffered a stroke while sitting for a portrait by the artist Elizabeth Shumatoff. Roosevelt died that day, and the portrait remained famously unfinished, just as were, sadly, Roosevelt's efforts in World War II. It was then left to Roosevelt's vice president, Harry Truman, to see an end to the global conflict. With German surrender looming, yet no end in sight in the Pacific Theater, Truman entered office with many uneasy decisions to be made. Since 1939, research and development had taken place in the top-secret research lab at Los Alamos on a new type of bomb, more powerful than previously conceived. The stopping power of this device was initially developed in response to intelligence of a similar Nazi program, but now it appeared the Pacific Theater was the place to employ the atomic bomb. Join us next time as we look at the close of World War II, the presidency of Harry Truman, and the remaining United States presidents in their journeys from politics to power.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.